This is the second part of my last video, which was about success, and now I would like to talk about how your surrounding can lead to success and how it is connected with each other. You should live your life in a way that causes you to feel a ton of pleasure and very little pain. Have the people around you who will give you a lot more pleasure than they do pain. Quoted by Anthony Robbins. Some time ago, there were important discoveries which were made about the inner workings of the brain, and it was found that vital chemicals carry messages between brain cells. In essence, they allow brain cells to talk to one another. On a typical day in the brain, trillions of messages are sent and received. The happy messages are carried by the brain's happy messengers, and which is called, technically known as the endorphin system, and sad ones are also carried by the brain, but they are the sad messages. The logic is very simple. Now, most nerve centers receive input from both types of messengers. As long as this input is balanced, everything runs along on an even keel. We all have stress in our lives. What causes stress? It is actually, we tend to cause our own stress, but it's all unknowingly. It is what we think, the way we think, because as to what's happening around us can lead to stress. Stress, however, causes problems with the brain's happy messengers. When life is smooth, the happy messages keep up with the demand, and when too much stress or there's too much of unhappiness or sadness, the happy messengers begin to fall behind on their deliveries. As the stress continues, the happy messengers begin to fail. Now, the important nerve center that receives mostly the sad messages when the happy messages fail, and the whole brain becomes very sad, which means gets depressed. The person enters a state at the time where the chemical imbalance in the brain takes place, and that is called depression. Now, that could be minor or could be severe, depending on the state of mind you are in at that time. Let me give you one of my own past experiences, which was work-related, and it was sadness, and how it affected me, my brain, my life, my physical, as a holistic thing, how it affected me on the whole at that time. I used to work in an office long time ago, and the manager who managed then saw the capabilities in me and gave me the ownership to do things and be responsible for my own actions. In other words, he actually treated me like an adult. I did not have any problem with any of the staff in that area where I worked with them for over 5 years or so. And when politicians change, it's funny. In Australia, the government also changes, right? I worked for a government, hence it was a government firm, hence changes took place. Now then came a new manager on board who loved to micromanage, and of course systems and policies changed accordingly. To cut short the story, I was very unhappy with my work and my work surroundings, which means the mates or buddies or people who I've worked with for past that many years, 5 years, changed for their own selfish needs. Now, what happens is too much of politics takes place. And I tried to move from there. Unfortunately, circumstances didn't provide me that opportunity. I felt choked. I felt I was left all alone to battle in order to survive in that environment. This was also the time when I was constructing my new building, my house, which was all very exciting. And I had few good friends who were helping me with my building at the time, and few who gave me moral support. Guys, I will always have you in my mind. I haven't forgotten you. So on one side, I was balancing my family, and on the other side, handling the work situation. Was the toughest part of my life then. It went on for a year or so, and gradually it was building. I started losing weight, concentration. I was making the silliest mistakes of my life at work, typing a document with silly errors, typo errors, or whatever it is. Many things like that started to happen to me, and which I knew it wasn't me. There's something wrong. It's just not me. And what happened is, at work people thought I was purposely making these errors because I was unhappy, which they knew. So, sometimes they say that all it needs is just that little trigger to push for the bomb to explode. So that little final push, there was a circumstance or an instance which took place at that time in the office, and I was totally out of control, lost. It took me a few years to come back to my state, and with the help of professionals and of course medication and everything, I sought help. Now, so you can see the whole picture, how things went from one to the other. And I don't have my family in Australia, and I spent a lot of time at work more than at home. So work was my family to me. I took things emotionally, and people I felt around over there it was like really, I felt close to them because I spent most of the time there than at home. And it was truly my wrong assumption. It was my problem, it was my mistake. I don't blame anybody but myself for that reason, because of course things happened, and I, being kind of emotional and too much of happening, I did take things personally as a human being. Has to be, because it's all normal, it's part of life, and that's how we are built. And so what happened is, as I did not really have the capability then to judge and analyze people around me, so that lesson in my life was the biggest lesson of all, which is work is work. Keep it separate and be able to identify individuals, and never discuss personal things at work. Never take things to heart or get emotional with anything, especially with work. I learned to differentiate between the word friend, close friends, associates, workmates, myself, and I started analyzing those words and the relationships with different people, and everything, like putting that in place. And I do that all the time to date now. I educated myself to become smarter in communicating with people and dealing and handling various situations, how to control the situation, then control myself with my emotions, and how to think outside the square. Why people are doing that, what is the reason behind it. So I do not have any guidance here. I learned everything by making mistakes and of course educating myself. I most of all learned not to hang around too much of or deal with those who are negative, who have negative thoughts, and where I tend to get unhappy and could affect me. So now I'm able to analyze my surroundings. I learned to treat every person as an individual rather than placing emotions first. My policy is very simple: give respect and take respect. I have created different baskets to place individuals in according to their characters, attitude, and personalities. I don't know how many people do that, honestly, but I learned to do that in time and with my experience. Everyone is different, guys, and has good and bad in them, including myself. But I learned to manage it. It's called human resources, I guess, and learn to enjoy only the best from them rather than ignoring them totally, because no one is perfect in this world. Again, all depends in an individual and how, if you're able to handle or not. If not, move away. You don't need unhappiness or sadness in your life, an addition to your life. I conclude this by saying that if only one is in a happy state of mind, you then automatically start seeing life in a very different and a very positive way. Meaning, keep your brain happy. Other words, yourself happy. This then leads to success after success. Doors tend to open wider, opportunities start knocking at your door. Your overall attitude, your posture, your behavior, your physical appearance, and your personality is at its peak and it's at the best. And the most important thing, your brain starts to function much better. Think more, and because you're now fully focused. All you have to do then is to concentrate and do your best. Everything falls in its place after that. This is my experience of my life, and I hope you learned something about this. Thanks.